Our next speaker is Mary Tafori, and she's the Chief Sales Enablement and VP of IBM Global Sales. And she's responsible for a $20 billion piece of business, everything in the sales enablement life cycle. She has to modernize learning and focus on skills activation. Mary Tafori is a modern revenue leader. And we're so happy to have you, Mary. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Calvin, and thank you, Lauren. Actually, my first piece of reflection today is that it's amazing. We didn't know each other and we didn't exchange ahead of time, whatever we would have shared with all of you. And we actually share a lot. We already have a lot in common. The more I was reflecting on the message that everybody was having. So clearly, in IBM as well, we have similar challenges. What I can say is that about 2 years ago, we started on this journey of what are the traits of the modern seller. And starting that journey a couple of years ago really came helpful during the very challenging year that we just went through, and still it's not over. So when we look at what are the traits of the modern seller, like we heard from other leaders, the most important one, number one thing is the client centricity, being the client advisor. I would say IBM is like a 112 years old company. We've been always, customer first, but for sure in decades, this notion changed. Yes, we are on the relationship business, but relationship alone doesn't help anymore. So how do we peel the onion? How the relationship is really changing? First of all, we need to develop empathy. And Brené Brown is the number one person that comes to mind, of course, when we talk about empathy. In a simple way, I say we have 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. Sellers, you need to practice empathy. And how do you practice empathy? Because some people are naturally more empathic, some others not. But there are tools that can help us to be more empathic. One key tool is mindfulness. I started my journey with mindfulness more than 7 years ago when I was doing a completely different job, was traveling a lot, and I was completely messed up with sleeping. And the pills that you buy over the counters weren't helping anymore. So in my trip to Sydney, I was sitting next to a lady that talked to me about, mindfulness. And I started to mindfulness, meditation, the difference, and so on. And so long story short, I started to practice mindfulness. But when I joined this organization in this role as a sales enablement leader, I started to think, can mindfulness help sellers? So I started to read about it. And there are books that speak about how practicing mindfulness can build us deeper, can help us to build deeper connections with our clients, so be more empathic. And so that when we have the conversation, when we tell the story, we are connected deeply on what their needs are. In fact, when you think what the customers are looking for right now, it's not just somebody that can tell about the solution or the industry or consultancy as you want. We heard about that. It's deeper, it's insight. How do you find that insight? And I'll bring you to my next how-to, right? The first one was mindfulness. The second one is design thinking. I have been practicing design thinking in my previous jobs, and it was very successful. So I started this job and I said, okay, can design thinking help sellers? And the answer was yes. We are using a lot of design thinking, and especially this year where everybody's challenged to think differently, disrupt the business where they are. All the clients, small and big, all have a common challenge, how we can not just survive, but thrive throughout this pandemic. And many are doing this very well. Some other are looking for advice. Design thinking is such a powerful way to connect deeply, have empathy, find the needs, and find together solution, so that you close the circle, you bring insight, and you work and focus on what the client outcomes really are. One thing that we need to really work hard with, especially for people that have been doing this job for like selling for more than 10 years, they need to kind of learn. I think, Brian, you were talking about that earlier. they need to unlearn the way they have been doing this job for so long, and really get into a ground that is different. Is the ground where the client is with their needs and with their challenges, and pretend to work for them. So when I'm the seller, I'm trying to engage a client, how my behavior will change, how the conversation will change if I work for you, you as a client. In fact, one thing that we suggest our sellers to do is to, pretend to be your client customers. And I use these two words intentionally. A client to me is somebody that you build a long-lasting relationship. A customer is like more transactional. And so if you're dealing with a retail, go to that shop, observe how the other customers walking into the shop are behaving. What can you observe that then you can bring into the conversation with your C-level contact that you have in the client side? So that is how you build that connection, you build that empathy. And of course, what you will sell will be bigger than that. But unlocking the door, driving innovation with empathy, with deep connection, I think is the way to bring insight to our client. That's what I wanted to share with all of you.